Good morning everybody, Peter here, Thailand bound. I thought I'd do another little video from my kitchen. It's early morning once again. I did one yesterday and it seemed to go down quite well with people. Again, same as yesterday, it's only 6:30 in the morning. I've got people asleep in the house, so I've got to speak fairly quiet. I don't want to disturb anyone. As you can see behind me here, it's still dark outside. I've got the blinds closed, so it is very, very early, just 6:30, and same as yesterday. I have another coffee. I thought I'd have another little chat with you today. It's quite informal doing it like this early morning. There's no one about, nice and quiet. Big hi to Jim, by the way. Jim contacted me this morning. Well, I got your email this morning. Look forward to getting your the email you said you'd send me later. So I thought I'd make a video today, this morning, just a little one, short one, about a reoccurring message that comes through to me. And I haven't printed anything out because I'm in my kitchen. It's very informal this morning. But what the reoccurring message basically says is, you know, if you're a regular or you're a subscriber and you look at my videos, I'm always talking about the beer bars and the go-go bars and those sort of areas. It's because I'm in the UK at the moment and it's quite hard to keep the channel active talking about things. If you're not in Thailand, I'll be there after the new year, so I'll be doing a lot of different kind of filming. I'll be doing hotel reviews, restaurants, that sort of thing. But we'll carry on with this subject for now. Now, what this reoccurring email sort of comes across and says is, while people appreciate the, you know, the tips and common lies that bar girls tell you and what mama sands get up to and all those sort of things, I get people who write to me and they'll say, look, Peter, in 27 years of visiting Thailand, you must have come across at least one relationship, just one, that's actually worked. So, in other words, sorry guys, just have another quick slurp. So in other words, a guy's walked into a beer bar or a go-go bar, he's paid to take her out and enjoy her time outside of the bar, a relationship's developed and it's worked out. There must be at least one. That's the message I'm getting across. And I've really been trying to rack my brains and it's really hard because as unbelievable as it sounds, I kind of know one, but it ended in not a great way, but that was nothing to do with the relationship between the go-go girl and the guy who hooked up with her. But really, honestly, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm really, really negative when I tell you these stories about the bar girls, and it sounds like I'm just, you know, it sounds like I'm almost giving up before I begin, but it's not like that, guys. I mean, if I'd seen, you know, if I'd seen 100 relationships and 99 of them went sour and one of them went good or two of them went good, I'd say, look, you know, go for it, guys. You might be the one in the 100 that gets the good girl, you know, the lucky one. You might be the lucky one, but honestly, it just doesn't happen. It's nothing to do with being negative or derogatory. It's just, you just don't see it. I mean, there's an old saying in Thailand, and it really, it's been bandied around for years, but it really is true. And the saying is, you can take the girl out of the bar, but you can't take the bar out of the girl. Now think about that. And it's true. You know, they've got it, their way of life is embedded into their system, as it were. So, what about this one story that was successful? Okay, I'll tell you that. I mean, I know that was something that happened about 18 years ago. There was a guy I knew, he was a good friend of mine actually, about 10 years younger than me, 8 years younger than me. His name was Paul. And Paul was, he came over to Thailand, he decided to stay. Paul had an advantage on most expats that come out there. And his advantage was he had a skill where he was able to make a living in Bangkok without having any investment, which is quite rare. And the reason for that was because he was a DJ and he was quite a successful DJ. He was only about 25, 26. His name was Paul. And he'd done the circuit around London. He'd gone out to Ibiza, done some summer, not shows, what do you call them? Summer parties. You know, it's busy out there in the summer and quiet in the winter. He eventually came out to Thailand to visit some of us and he loved it there. Why wouldn't he? So he started doing some DJing and yeah, he was quite successful because, you know, obviously English speaking DJ, could have been American, could have been Australian, it doesn't matter, but he was English speaking. And he hooked up with this guy. Originally, he's just doing 1 or 2 nights. You know, he was filling in for guys who had their nights off, and you know, he was doing small sort of venues, and it was a bit of a struggle, but he did manage to sustain himself for a few months. And then he, what happened after that, he hooked up with a sound and light company who was based in Bangkok, an English company, and they hired him as a full-time DJ. And he went off and did parties in the British Embassy, them sort of places, US Embassy. I think he did US Embassy. Anyway, he did a lot of the, when hotels had functions in their, in rooms that didn't have equipment, they hired this company, the sound and lighting company. The owner was a friend of mine, and, or is a friend of mine. Paul went to work for them, so I'm just building up a bit of background. I can't just like leap into the story without telling you the background of Knock, the girl, and Paul. And by the way, I did tell this story really briefly a long time ago in one of my early videos. It wasn't about this story, so it was brief. This is actually the whole story. I'm trying to give you a positive story because so many people keep asking me. So there you are. Paul's there in Bangkok. He's about 25, 26. He's now working full time as a DJ. He's making good money, probably 50, 60,000 baht a week. Sorry, was it a month or a week? A month. And that would have been about 18 years ago. So he headed down to Nana Plaza with us all one night. I was with him, and so was the other guy who owned the sound and lighting company. We used to go out, get hammered actually. I was younger then. Couldn't do it now. Yeah, so we headed out. We went to Nana. Where else? This was before Cowboy was really happening. Cowboy was there, but it wasn't. It was nowhere near as good as Nana. It's kind of gone the other way now. But we headed down to Nana Plaza, and we went. It was on the ground floor, one of the big popular bars. It's still there, but it's one of our friends owned it. I forget the name of it now. I think it's called London Calling now. It used to be called something else back in the day. And a guy called, 2 guys owned it, Anton and Kevin. He's dead now. He passed away just this last year actually. Kevin's still, he's here in the UK. I'm friends with him still keep in touch. Anyway, Nok was working in this bar. She was a hardcore bar girl. She'd come down to Bangkok when she was 18, and she'd done the rounds. She working straight into a go-go bar. Very busy it was, that particular go-go bar at the time. And you know, she had lots of regular customers. She was being bar fined every night. She knew the ropes. You know, you couldn't pull the wool over Nok's eyes. She'd been around. She'd been down there probably 7 years by the time Paul met her. Anyway, Paul went into the bar, into this busy bar. Like I say, it's called London's Calling now. Just a few bars along from Classroom, one of our other favourite bars. Anyway, so Paul met Nok, and he bar fined her, and he did it a few times, and he actually really liked her, and believe it or not, Nok liked him also. But you know, obviously Nok has to work. So let's cut this. Let's make it a short video. Let's cut to the chase. So eventually, what happened is Paul wanted to live with Nok. He wanted to team up with her, but he was really he weren't happy about her working in the bar, because if a girl's working in the bar, it sounds so innocent when you say that, but I don't really want to describe it in full detail because it's YouTube, but let's think about that a minute. She works in a bar, in a go-go bar. She goes into the bar every night. She dances on stage in a bikini, and what goes along with that. So if you're a boyfriend, you'd have to put up with that. Nobody wants to put up with that. So one night they were having dinner outside the plaza before she went to work, and Paul said, "Look, Nok, I don't like this, basically. You know, you're sort of going off with people, and you know, I'm seeing you every day, and I don't know what the financial arrangement was. There must have been something in place, because you know, these girls, as I told you before, they've got to send money back to their families, and somebody who's uneducated who works in a bar like that, that's all they know. So if they don't get that money, they have to get it from somewhere else." Hang on. So yeah, Paul, I'm just trying to remember it from memory. Yeah, Paul said to Nok, he said, "Look, Nok, you know, I'm not very happy you working in the bar. I want you to leave the bar and come and live with me," because he really liked her, and she did like him, to be fair. Nok turned around to Paul and said, "Look, Paul, I do like you. I would like to leave the bar. I would like to hook up with you, but I can't afford to do it. You know, unless you're going to support me, look after me, give me some money to send to my family, I can't do it. And Paul just said, well, it's simple, Knock. You know, if you're going to continue working, then I'm not interested. So eventually Knock said, well, I need 25,000 baht a month to send my family. Now, luckily for Paul, he'd been briefed by us. He knew the score, although he hadn't been there that long. He, sorry guys, got a call coming in. That's it, I'll call him back later. Although he hadn't been there that long, we briefed him and, you know, we told him what everything was about, so he knew. And the thing is, back in them days, you know, the girls from Isan, they came from farming communities. They didn't need 25,000 baht a month. If she was going to live with him, all her bills would have been taken care of. Paul would have paid a mobile phone, and you know, a family in Isan can get by in those days on probably 3,000-4,000 baht a month. And Paul knew this, so Paul turned around to Knock. He said, "Look, no, I'm not going to give you 25,000 a month. It's too much. But what I will do, if you come and live with me, I'll pay all the bills. You won't have to put your hand in your pocket. Eventually, you can get a little job to get yourself some pocket money. But I'll send your family 5,000 baht a month, which we thought was reasonable. They could easily live on 5,000 baht a month. It was more than enough." Knock liked Paul a lot, so she agreed to this. She said, "Yeah, okay, we'll do that," and that's what happened. Knock left the bar, and she went to live with Paul. Paul carried on with his DJ. He was getting more and more popular, and eventually he was scouted by some guys who were opening a nightclub in Phuket, and they offered him a real good package. Basically, it was good money, accommodation, little small apartment, not a room, just a 1-bedroom apartment, but it was paid for by the nightclub, and he could have all his drinks free, and it was too good of an offer to miss up. So he went and seen the guy who owns the sound and lighting company, told him about it. He understood. They parted as friends. Can you hear that, guys? My dog, he's snoring. He's behind me. Can you hear him? Anyway. Yeah, he went down to Phuket, and they moved into this small apartment. Everything was going well. Knock was with him, and she turned out she was actually behaving herself. As far as we know, she wasn't getting up to anything, but she did like Paul a lot. And you've got to remember also, guys, that these girls, I mean, if she's come down to Bangkok when she was 18, he's getting really loud. Hang on, let me just pause that. I'll put him in another room. 1 second. Sorry about that. He wasn't very happy. It wasn't that you wouldn't be able to hear me talking. It's just it was very irritating because I could hear him snoring. It was a lot louder here than you probably came across on the camera. I put him in the dining room. He's not very happy. I woke him up. Where were we? Yeah, so Paul and Knock, they're in Phuket now. They moved into this small apartment, and everything's gone well. Knock's behaving herself. So, you know, in answer to these emails or these messages I get, yeah, this is a fairly successful relationship. It's one of the few, one of the only ones I've known of that has actually worked out and that I can share with you. But unfortunately, believe it or not, guys, it actually had a tragic end. In those days, the clubs and bars stayed up until about 4 o'clock in the morning. Paul was working for most of the night. By the time he packed up and said his goodbyes and got on his little motorbike and got back to the apartment, it was about 5:30. And he got back in one Sunday morning, and a bit later than normal. It had been a busy night in the club, and I think it was about 6 o'clock he got home. Knock was awake by this time, and as he'd just arrived, as she was waking up, she said, "Look, Paul, can you nip out to the market? You know, the food carts used to open up about 6 in the morning, and around the marketplace." And she said, "Can you go out and get me some food? Save me cooking Sunday morning and all that." And he agreed. He went out on his bike and thought he'd get himself something. And unfortunately for Paul, he was very, very tired because obviously he'd been working all night. He went flying down to the market on his bike, went over a crossroads, a junction, and unfortunately he was hit by a truck. He was wiped out, instant death, killed. And that was the end of it. I mean, it's very, very sad. I knew Paul. He was a good friend. So, you know, to sum up really, I mean, as far as the relation goes, up until that point, it was successful. Paul had gone into the bar, he'd bar find her, she was hardcore, been doing it 7-8 years, hooked up with Paul, she liked him a lot, he liked her, and the relationship was there. I think they were together for about 18 months before this happened. I don't know what happened to Knock afterwards. Obviously, she would have been devastated, absolutely devastated when you lose a partner like that. The thing is, in Thailand, there's no welfare system, so you'd like to think after that she wouldn't have been working in a bar again. But, you know, what do you do? And the thing is, if she was working in a bar, we never seen her again. I mean, I used to travel all over Thailand. I'd go down to Pattaya for the weekend, round all the bars. I'd go to Hua Hin. I've even been up to Khon Kaen a few times. Not my favourite place, but anyway, we never seen her again. So if I had to take a guess, I would say probably what happened, she probably had some savings, not too much, but she probably went up to a village, and there are opportunities for them to earn very small money up there doing bits and pieces, hairdressing, nails, working in little shops, the equivalent to 7-Eleven, but up north, you know, they're not 7-Elevens, they're little shops, things like that. They can get little jobs and earn themselves 3, 4, 5,000 baht a month. And I'm guessing she was probably so devastated after the death of Paul that she did that. As I say, we didn't spot her in any bars anywhere, and if she was working, it would have been pretty difficult not to be spotted, because we used to go everywhere. So that's about it. That's the only one I know that was successful. As I said earlier in the video, you know, I know it sounds like I'm being really negative about these girls, really derogatory. I'm not. I mean, they do what they got to do. They tell all their little white lies, you know. I mean, it must be awful having to deal with guys every night, different guys bullshitting them. But you know, that's it. That's the way of the world, and that's how it goes. And you know, I'm yet to see a successful relationship where I can make a video and say, by the way, these guys are alive and kicking, doing well, and they've just had, the wife's just had a baby, something like that. I haven't come across it yet. Who knows? I'm 60 in April. I've got another 10 years probably traveling and living in Thailand. Maybe I'll see one, and hopefully I'll be able to make a video one day and tell you all about it. But until then, guys, that's it. Knock and Paul, the success story. I hope that's satisfied a few people who's been writing to me. And until the next video later, I'll try and do another one. I'll go back to normal after this one. I'll have the nice backdrop behind me somewhere in Bangkok. But until then, thanks for watching this one, and I'll catch you on the next video round.